Daniel Carter pulled the collar of his old gray jacket tighter as cold rain fell across the city streets. Water dripped from his hair and soaked through his worn clothes, but he barely noticed. In one hand, he carried a weathered travel bag. In the other, he carefully held a bouquet of fresh white lilies, protecting them from the rain as best he could. The lilies were important. They had been his wife's favorite flowers. 3 years had passed since Sarah's death, yet not a single day went by without Daniel thinking about her. Since losing her, he had devoted himself to raising their 12-year-old daughter, Emma. Balancing fatherhood and business had never been easy, but Emma had become his reason to keep moving forward. After spending several months traveling between different cities to evaluate customer experiences at his businesses, Daniel had decided to return home without informing anyone. He preferred traveling anonymously. It allowed him to see how people were really treated when no one knew who they were. As he approached the Carter Grand Hotel, the sight of the building brought back memories. Years earlier, he and Sarah had stood on the same spot, dreaming about creating a hotel known not only for luxury, but also for kindness. A guest should feel respected the moment they walk through the door, Sarah had always said. Daniel smiled faintly at the memory and stepped inside. The lobby was warm and bright. Crystal chandeliers reflected soft golden light across polished marble floors. Guests chatted quietly while employees moved efficiently behind the reception desk. For a moment, Daniel simply looked around. The hotel was beautiful, yet something felt different. The atmosphere seemed colder than he remembered. He walked toward the front desk. "Good evening," he said politely. "I'd like a room for tonight." The young receptionist glanced up. Her eyes immediately moved from his muddy boots to his worn jacket. Her friendly smile disappeared. She typed something into the computer and then shook her head. "I'm sorry, sir, we don't have any rooms available." Daniel looked around. Several guests were still checking in. "Are you certain?" he asked calmly. The receptionist exchanged a look with a co-worker. Another employee stepped forward and said, "Sir, this hotel is usually reserved for our premium guests." Daniel tightened his grip on the lilies. "I understand," he replied quietly, "but I only need one room." The employee's expression hardened. "You're not welcome here." For a few seconds, the entire lobby seemed to fall silent. Daniel stood there, staring at the receptionist, wondering how the hotel he had built on respect and dignity had become a place where a person's appearance mattered more than their character. Daniel remained standing for a moment, holding the bouquet of lilies while the receptionist and her co-worker turned their attention to other guests. No one asked if he needed help. No one offered an explanation. He felt disappointed, but not because he had been denied a room. What hurt him was seeing how quickly people judge someone based on appearance. Without saying another word, Daniel walked away from the reception desk and took a seat in a quiet corner of the lobby. From there, he could see everything. Over the next 30 minutes, he watched guests arrive one after another. Well-dressed visitors were greeted with warm smiles and respectful conversation. Employees rushed to assist them with luggage and answer their questions. Then an elderly couple entered the hotel. Their clothes were simple, and they looked tired after a long journey. Daniel noticed the receptionist's expression change almost immediately. The welcome she offered was noticeably less friendly. The couple exchanged uncomfortable glances before completing their check-in. Daniel sighed. This was exactly why he traveled anonymously. Numbers on financial reports could show profits, but they could never reveal how people were treated. A few minutes later, the hotel manager walked through the lobby. Daniel recognized him instantly. He had personally promoted the man years earlier because of his dedication and professionalism. The manager passed only a few feet away but didn't recognize Daniel beneath the beard, tired face, and worn clothing. Daniel stood and approached him. "Excuse me," he said politely. The manager turned. "Yes?" "I was told there are no rooms available tonight." The manager barely looked at him. "I'm sorry, sir. The staff has already informed you." Before Daniel could respond, the manager walked away. That answer told Daniel everything he needed to know. The problem wasn't limited to one employee. It had become part of the culture. Daniel returned to his seat and quietly pulled out his phone. He opened an internal company directory and sent a brief message to the regional operations director. Please come to the Carter Grand Hotel immediately. Do not announce your arrival. Less than 20 minutes later, a black car stopped outside the entrance. The regional director hurried into the lobby and immediately spotted Daniel. His eyes widened. Mr. Carter? Several employees heard the name. The receptionist froze. The manager slowly turned around. A sudden silence spread across the lobby as realization began to appear on their faces. The tired man they had judged, ignored, and turned away was not a stranger asking for a room. He was the founder of the hotel itself. The regional director immediately walked toward Daniel and shook his hand. Mr. Carter, I came as quickly as I could. Is everything all right? The reaction was impossible to miss. The receptionist's face turned pale. The manager stared in disbelief. Several employees looked at one another, wondering if they had heard correctly. Daniel Carter, the founder and owner of the Carter Grand Hotel. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Then the manager rushed forward. Mr. Carter, I didn't recognize you. Daniel looked at him calmly. No, you didn't. The manager forced an uneasy smile. If we had known it was you, we would have... Daniel gently raised a hand. That's exactly the problem. The manager stopped talking. Daniel glanced around the lobby. If your kindness depends on knowing who someone is, then it isn't kindness. The words hung heavily in the air. Employees lowered their eyes. Daniel turned toward the receptionist. When I walked in tonight, what did you see? The young woman swallowed nervously. A man who looked like he had been traveling. Daniel nodded. And because of that, you decided I didn't belong here. No, sir. I mean, I wasn't trying to... But you did. Her eyes filled with regret. Daniel wasn't angry. He sounded disappointed, which somehow felt worse. I built this hotel with my wife, he said. We believed every guest deserved dignity, whether they arrived in a limousine or on foot. The lobby remained silent. Daniel then pointed toward the entrance. An elderly couple checked in earlier. I watched how they were treated. The welcome they received wasn't the same as the welcome given to wealthier guests. The receptionist couldn't deny it. Neither could the manager. The regional director quietly took notes. Daniel continued, a hotel sells rooms, but hospitality is about making people feel valued. If guests feel judged the moment they walk through the door, we've already failed. The manager lowered his head. You're right, Mr. Carter. Daniel looked at him for a long moment. What disappoints me most is that this wasn't one employee making a mistake. It happened at multiple levels. That means leadership failed. The manager's shoulders sank. He understood exactly what Daniel meant. After several moments of silence, Daniel made his decision. The receptionist and the employee who had directly refused service were terminated immediately for violating company policy. The manager was also removed from his position for allowing a culture of discrimination to develop under his supervision. No one argued. The decision wasn't made out of anger. It was made because Daniel knew that respect could not simply be written in a company handbook. It had to be practiced every day by everyone, without exception. The following morning, the atmosphere inside the Carter Grand Hotel felt completely different. News of what had happened the previous evening had spread quickly among the staff. Employees arrived early, speaking in hushed voices about the owner's unexpected visit and the decisions that followed. Daniel spent the morning meeting with department heads and team members from every level of the hotel. He wasn't interested in assigning more blame. He wanted to understand how the culture had drifted so far from the values on which the hotel had been built. During one meeting, a housekeeper who had worked at the hotel for nearly 10 years spoke honestly. People became too focused on appearances, she said. Some employees started treating wealthy guests like they mattered more. Several others quietly agreed. Daniel listened carefully. The problem wasn't a single bad decision. It was a series of small compromises that had slowly become normal. Later that afternoon, he gathered the entire staff in the hotel's conference hall. Many looked nervous. Daniel stepped to the front of the room and placed the bouquet of white lilies on a nearby table. My wife helped me build this company, he began. She believed that true hospitality begins with respect, not respect for important people, respect for all people. The room remained silent. You never know someone's story when they walk through those doors. A person wearing expensive clothes may be struggling inside. A person wearing worn-out clothes may have spent years helping others. Every guest deserves the same dignity. Several employees nodded. Daniel then announced new training programs focused on customer service, empathy, and professional conduct. He also introduced a policy allowing employees to recognize coworkers who demonstrated exceptional kindness toward guests. The weeks that followed brought noticeable changes. Guests frequently mentioned how welcomed they felt. Employee satisfaction improved. Positive reviews increased. One afternoon, Daniel noticed the elderly couple he had seen on the night of his return checking out of the hotel. Before leaving, the husband approached him. "We heard what happened," he said. "Thank you for standing up for people like us." Daniel smiled. "People like us?" The elderly man laughed softly. "Just ordinary people." Daniel looked around the busy lobby. "There's no such thing as ordinary people," he replied. "Only people who deserve to be treated well." As the couple left, Daniel glanced at the lilies beside the reception desk. For the first time in a long while, he felt that the hotel he and Sarah had dreamed of was becoming the place they had always wanted it to be. Not because of its luxury, but because of the humanity within its walls.